Hello, in this video we are going to look at how do we find out square root of numbers that have decimals or square root of decimal numbers that have points in between. So let us straight away start with an example. The number that we are given is 17.64 and we have to find out the square root of this. So what is the square root of 17.64? Now we will use the long division method with a little change, and the change is how do we group or how do we pair the numbers before and after the decimal. Okay, so let us follow the method. So we'll say 17.64. Now all you do is to group your numbers before and after the decimal. So before the decimal, you just group pairs of numbers starting all the way from right to left. So in this case, we have the first pair. Now for numbers that are after the decimals, you start from left to right, which means you do this port. But here it doesn't make any sense because you already have just one pair of numbers before and after the decimal. So we pair it. Okay, and now we simply proceed with the same division method as we did earlier. So what we are going to do, we need to find out number, the number whose square will be closest to 17 or equal to that, and we know that 4 times 4 gives us 16. Okay, subtracting that we get 1, and then you put the 64 down. Now you don't need to worry about decimal at this point in time. You can straight away say put 64 over here. But because now we are going to use the decimals, you just put a point over here. So whenever you pull the decimals down, you put a point here in the quotient. Okay, now so 4 times 2 gives us 8. We just double this number 8, and we need to find out a number here and multiply it with the unit, that same number, 8 times 80, whatever that number, so that we can get this. Now this one is pretty straightforward because if you multiply 82 by 2, okay, you would get 164. Okay, and then this gives us 0. So this gives you the solution to this 17.64. The square root of 17.64 is 4.2. So just wanted to reiterate that the division method for finding square roots of decimal numbers is the same, except for the way in which you do the grouping. So what you do, you group the numbers before the decimal separately and after the decimal separately, and the grouping before the decimal is done as we did earlier for whole numbers or for natural numbers where there were no decimals, and for the digits after decimals, you start the grouping or pairing from left to right in pairs. Okay, now you might have a query, what happens if there are uneven numbers? So for example, what happens if you have a number, let us say 176.341? How do you pair these numbers? So in this case, as I said, the numbers before the decimal are, the number of digits are 176. So for this, you begin from right to left. So you have 76 as the first one and 1 is the other one. And in this case, you move from left to right, not from right to left. So you do, so your first pair is 34 and then you have 1 over here. So if you want to pair, you put a 0 and this is the another pair that you get. So you have 3, 4, 1, 0. And then you can again proceed with your division method as we have discussed in this video and the earlier ones. So that was a quick example on how would you find out square roots that are decimals.